My name is Shaun and this is my Pecha Kucha presentation for Dr. Wendy McMurdo, introducing my previous photographic practice, my progress through the MA and my intentions for the final major project. Slide 1 shows my start in photography, which is very much aviation photography. Being the son of an RAF policeman, I was brought up on RAF stations and around airfields. Slide 2 introduces my interest in travel, history and culture photography, and this was taken in a visit to a Maori village in New Zealand in December 2016, where we were introduced to their customs and traditions when greeting people that approached their village. Slide 3 introduces my interest in architectural photography. This is a bridge over the Shotover River in New Zealand, and I was particularly drawn to this by the shapes and forms of the bridge supports and the bridge itself, and the fact that it seemed to be slab concrete in construction. Also architectural photography. Slide 4 is of the glass walls of the Harper Concert Centre in Reykjavik Harbour. The glass walls are formed by odd shaped, non-regular patterned pieces of glass, and in the picture we can see the reflections of superstructure of naval vessels in the harbour itself. Slide 5 is a low light shot when I was experimenting with a 50mm f1.2 Sigma art lens. It was taken at dusk on a very rainy day in the churchyard of the church in Stratford-upon-Avon, where William Shakespeare is buried, and the gentleman featured is actually a documentary photographer himself. As a former rugby player with a passion for the game, it was perhaps natural I tended to gravitate towards my wife's rugby teams, both at university and locally at Lincoln, and I've become the team photographer for both. I've also been invited to become a team photographer for the local regional team, and my photographs feature very regularly in online reports. As a working semi-pro photographer, I've also worked with a couple of local bands generating promotional material for their social media presences and for their websites. As well as local businesses, I've also done work for individuals, including headshots, and I've done portfolio updates for established and aspiring models. The sustainability module made me realise I could do much more to be eco-friendly, so we used an opportunistic approach to photographing derelict buildings in our holiday in Ireland rather than using a planned itinerary. And also I bought a EcoTank printer using refillable ink tanks rather than the plastic cassettes that need to be replaced. Studying various photographers on the course has made me realise that my portrait photography was quite stiff, informal and inflexible. So I've taken a more relaxed approach with this portrait of my granddaughter Reed, and I think that the photograph benefits from it being much more relaxed and natural and much less formal. In the collaboration and professional locations module, I decided to follow a landscape-based project called Scars on the Landscape, detailing how man had negatively impacted the natural landscape. I also realised in this module that up to then my landscape photography had all been about the aesthetics of being pretty and nice rather than making a point, telling a story. In the Informing Context module, I decided to look at a permaculture farm called the Inkpot Farm at Squeddington in Lincolnshire, which is under threat of being compulsorily purchased and destroyed when they make a brand new massive reservoir. The picture here shows Hannah the farmer physically cleaning eggs before she personally delivers them to her clients. Slides 12 and 13 refer to my previous attempt at the FMP whilst in Trafalgar cohort. The project looked at my physical disability and the effects it had on my daily routine, from getting washed and dressed to doing routine issues like carrying washing downstairs and so on. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to generate the volume of work through illness. Additionally, the layout and shape of my house and its position in the street wasn't conducive to showing how I'd been relegated to being an observer in many activities that I'd previously done, such as cutting the grass, taking the bins out and so on, and therefore I decided to replace the project when I restarted the FMP. My new FMP project is entitled Remembrance, and it's going to look at various forms of remembrance in the UK. This will include the famous Remembrance Sunday parades at the Cenotaph, other local parades of remembrance, and also other forms of remembrance in terms of war graves, cemeteries, statues and memorial parks. Many thousands of military casualties are buried in Commonwealth war grave cemeteries around the UK and all over the world in fact, but there are also many individuals buried in local cemeteries at the behest of their families or whatever, but they still have a Commonwealth war graves headstone, So I'll be looking at some of these as well. As the name suggests, the Commonwealth War Graves Commission looks after the graves of combatants from all of the Commonwealth countries that fought during World War II, including the South Africans, Canadians and New Zealanders and many other nations. But it also looks after the graves of Germans that died in the UK as prisoners of war or that were shot down over England. Several hundred Poles flew in the RAF as part of the Polish squadrons during the Second World War, and many casualties were taken. Something like 400 Polish airmen are buried at the Commonwealth War Graves Cemetery in Newark, which became a central collection point for their burials. Just outside Cambridge, at a place called Madingley, there's an American cemetery where several thousand Americans are buried, or their names are recorded if they have no known graves. This is a cemetery looked after by an American equivalent of the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, and it's quite a beautiful place, very serene, immaculately looked after, and very, very quiet. My research for this project has included looking at some famous photographers such as Bill Brandt, Don McCullin, but many other photographers, Jan Campanars, Ivan Bawtry, Matthew Brady, Olive Edis, Joanna Moore, Mike Shield, Yusuf Karsh, all of whom have photographed items relative to the project. In terms of dissemination of the work, there will be a book published in due course, there will be exhibitions in the Royal British Legion branch in Sleaford, and there'll be online exhibitions at the Disabled Photographer Society, the Royal Photographic Society's Archaeology and Heritage Group magazine focused on the North East in October and November in the Commonwealth War Grave Commission's Foundation Chronicle.